I think the biggest thing is just thank everybody for being so supportive this weekend. Last time I checked our Make-A-Wish donation stream, it was at just over 1,200, I think, which is, kind of unbelievable. We've been stuck inside all for months, and we managed to do something like this. If anybody is watching, please take the time to donate now. And the people that you see on here are the guys that and gals that pulled this off. We couldn't have done it without everybody here. So really appreciate what you guys have done.
Agreed. Thanks to everybody.
Well, thank you, Mr. Brown, for helping getting us all organized and pulling this off.
Definitely.
Well, I think I think that this is kind of what we wanted to see out of out of this event, and I think it's great that we have Mr. Albin here with us today. When I joined back in, I think it was 2009, one of the first things I heard was his story, and I think it was the Heart of an Empire was the video about it, and that was really moving because it really spoke to why I wanted to do this, and hopefully we've been able to do some of that here this weekend. And I think some of the panels we touched on things like why we troop and why we do what we do. I think that's important to keep in mind.
I agree.
Definitely.
Sorry, I'm busy plugging you guys. Getting out here, plugging away. Come on. And just to write off what Mr. Brown is saying, it's easy to take for granted what we normally get to do in a normal year. And like I've taught my kids, it's this is the year for us to take stock of the things we normally do take for granted. And I know, I told them I'm sorry that you had to be born at this time, but I'm also not sorry because your grandkids will never believe you when you talk about this, and it's going to teach you a lot about taking stock of what you can appreciate on a normal year. And so trooping, I get this from so many people talking about how much they miss the experience, how they miss being able to socialize with people. So good for you guys, because I play a lot of online D&D games, and my group can't meet in my house anymore, and I can't meet at their house. And I feel so connected to them, even though it's through Discord. This means a lot to troopers everywhere, and you guys are setting an example. Any garrison or squad that sets the example, I'm just proud of, because you are setting the bar higher for everyone else in the Legion. Maybe next month or in the next couple of months, other people will be having virtual cons. So this is awesome. I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Well, we really appreciate the the time and effort that everybody here has put in, and Albin, it's like I said, it's really been inspiring for me to hear some of your stories. If you guys don't know, I'm part of the Walking Wounded detachment as well, that Albin is a big part of, and I believe you started it. Correct?
Yes, me and one other gentleman, Tony. Okay, now I'm on Tony Price. Tony Price. Years ago at Dragon Con over a beer, he had mentioned he was a former wrestler, and so he was debilitated with a lot of back injuries from his professional wrestling years, and it was his idea, really. Sheila Price, his surviving wife, who now is part of Empire City Garrison, and they were part of Florida. She'll tell you that he was a big inspiration to a lot of people because he pushed through that pain. He put the back brace on, he troop, and I remember him telling me at Dragon Con in a bar in Atlanta, he's like, you need to start a unit that's dedicated to those people that everyone else takes for granted. Being able to troop, these people are pushing through things we don't see. It could be physical, it could be mental, it could be emotional. One of the things that we tell prospective members, and now we're up to about 650 members, is I don't need an explanation for what your limitation or your handicap or whatever you want to call it. you're in. You're just in. If you are willing to be recognized as part of a cadre of people that are overcoming something, it's my hope that we'll get to the size that there'll be someone with something in the neighborhood of what you're going through to be able to support that. And if we can't, if there's professional help you need, medical or psychological or whatever, at least we have moral support. And so that's been a big, big thing. And I'm just, my heart swells at some of the stories people have given us about everything from PTSD following military service, or just as first responders, people that have things that the general public would think is not a big deal, like chronic debilitating migraines. I mean, obviously I as an amputee, I gravitate to a lot of people that have prosthetics or prosthetic limbs. But I'm learning more and more. For me, I'm learning what is holding people back, and I'm also learning what people are willing to do to push past that to do what we do. So just like 2020, you take stock of what you take for granted. Walking Wounded, absolutely. Everybody there will tell you, and they're not smarmy about it. Like, I'm Walking Wounded. They're very proud of it, and we hope that it'll build into a resource for all Legion members, because we ain't getting any younger. So probably it's a growth industry being Walking Wounded, and I'm just proud of everybody. So thank you for mentioning that, Daniel. Proud to have you in it.
Well, one of the really neat things about Garrison Tyrannus, and Danny Redmond can probably talk to you a little bit more about this, but one of the big things that we do here is there's real focus on hospital visits and things like that. And so when we do them up here, I like to make sure that we have some of the Walking Wounded, banners and things like that. I've given out patches and pens. If you're not familiar with it, this is actually our the detachment logo. I have given this to my doctors.
Nice.
Sort of, I not just because I like them, and it might have been partially a bribe to say, maybe do a good job, but I think that is something that's special. Danny, can you tell us a little bit about why that's so important in this garrison, this idea of the hospital visits and things?
I think it's just that I think it's important, probably Legion wide, right? I mean, it's probably it is one of the most rewarding things that we do, and we just seem to have a lot of it going on here in Tyrannus, in all the squads and all the areas, So we even have members, locally here down in the East, Westpac honorary member, and his parents, he was a child who was taken from by childhood cancer, and his mother is a Legion member here, and she worked at the CHKD down here. And, so we were very involved as a squad here in the East. Up north, and you got Julia, what is it? Smile Squad. I met a bunch up north.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. They, going up to the hospitals like weekly until February.
Yeah, that was my last troop, actually, February.
We just got some really good people all around the garrison that, which I would hope is everywhere, that are really not just interested and get a lot out of those, but that coordinate setting those up. So hopefully we can get back to it sooner rather than later.
Well, we have spent the weekend, those of us who are here on this call, spent the weekend asking other people questions. And what I'd like to do is flip around a little bit. And Albin, since we have you here, and some of these guys are kind of brand new off the just out of the training yard. So what I'd like to do, if you're agreeable, is give each person a chance to kind of ask you a question. So why don't we start?
Sure.
I'm going to go by the order that I have on my screen. So Ken, we're going to start with you.
Me?
Yes, sir.
You're up.
Yes, sir, Dr.
you're up.
Jones.
I couldn't tell whether you said Ken or Tim.
Ken has the floor.
I'm sorry.
Dr. Jones.
All right. So, first of all, I mean, just I can't believe I just hopped on here and just happened to be talking to Tim when this thing happened. I wasn't even supposed to be on this panel. and to be able to talk to you, Albin, is it's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
You know, you've achieved a celebrity status that I'm sure you're aware of, but
Yeah, I don't understand, but okay.
so
Thank
that's
you.
kind of
I'm just glad to see talking heads, it's people and interacting. It's awesome.
yeah. So that I think that drives my question though, is if I know the story correctly, I mean, this was you and a bunch of guys saying, I could build that. I can make one of those, and putting your stormtroopers on and going to things like Dragon Con and movie openings, and
Yeah.
fast forward.
Well, it's one guy, but oh, go ahead.
Fast forward a bunch of years, and now it's this huge thing. Like,
Yeah.
how does that make you feel personally? That, I mean, you got this ball rolling, and now it's this amazing 501st Legion that everybody's a part of, and it's pinned on you.
Well, all right. So the first thing I would say is I didn't expect it. And, you know, the one time I ever met George Lucas, that was a question I asked him. And I asked him, I was like, did you think this was ever going to, you know, Star Wars was ever going to get this big? And, you know, he's pretty low key. So he just turned to me and kind of, you know, no. And I think that's like a lot of things that take off. I think every one of us has good ideas. Like somebody had the idea to have this, this convention online. Then, you know, next week you'll have the idea of putting something out for your squad. And every time in the back of your head, you're like, we all think about the ways it's going to fail. So for me, the biggest takeaway I have about the success of the 501st is I look forward to every idea everyone proposes moving forward in fandom, not just, you know, the 501st, not just at a Legion level, but at every unit, in your unit. And I think to myself, I get excited. What's the potential, the raw potential here that we could blossom into that you'd never understand how big it'd get? R2KT. I never realized that R2KT would take off. Tony and I never realized the Walking Wounded would be a big deal. For 10 years, we fought with people about starting the Galactic Academy, and now look at them, man. They're just going gangbusters. So to me, it's inspiring to just believe in good notions and good planning and surrounding yourself with good people. Because you're right, fairly, unfairly, it gets pinned on me about the 501st, but I joke it's a pyramid scheme. There's tens of thousands of people who made the 501st big. You guys are making it big. You know, that's what happens in the human experience is we want to point to a Steve Jobs or a Walt Disney or whoever and just say, and you know why that is? Because each and every one of you want to be the Walt Disney of your own idea and see it grow and flourish. And so take, for instance, the success we had last year with The Mandalorian. I reached out to every one of the 501st members that were in that and personally congratulated them. And I had a couple of them come back to me and go, well, thank you. That means a lot to us. I went, you don't understand. The 501st to me was about creating opportunities for everyone else. Every year, if I hear about mostly California, but when I hear the Legion members getting opportunities to do stuff, it makes my heart glad. If anything, I'm just very glad that we have several opportunities, windows for people to be a super Star Wars fan. You put the armor on, you're already a cut above. You know, I tell people all the time, I meet people at conventions and they're super fans, but they haven't made that leap into costuming yet. And I said, I totally get that. It is a hard leap. You know, it's role playing in real life. Thank goodness we have the masks, you know, that makes it easier for us. But when you put on the costume and you're out as an actual ambassador of Star Wars, you're in the 1% of the 1% in terms of the level of commitment you have to the saga, the respect you want to pay for, what you're willing to get out of it, and what you're willing to give. And so I'm just excited to see the opportunities. Every year I want to see or hear about some garrison getting to be on a show or be featured in a fan film or something like that. So cool. So I don't take all the credit. I'll take that little bit back in 1997 for credit because that sucked. But at the beginning, it really, really was hard. But thank you.
Well, James, let's jump to you. Do you have a question for us?
Yeah. First of all, Mr. Johnson, a real honor to meet you. You know, I remember when I first saw, like, I first heard of the 501st through the documentary about when members went to the Rose Bowl parade.
Oh, wow. Star
into,
Warriors.
Yeah, back in 2007. And I was just
Yeah.
like, I thought to myself, like, wow, like, I think I want to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Good documentary.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Now I'm sure, you know, being involved for as long as you have, there's been so many, you know, events, programs that you've been part of throughout the years. I was just wondering, are there any certain events that you feel are very memorable in your mind? I know there's a lot, but are there a few that stick out that you hold dear?
Well, obviously, yes. Speaking of the Star Warriors documentary, raise your hand if you saw me in it. It's very hard to see me in it. I'm in there for 2 seconds. Anybody?
I think so. I don't.
You think so? Exactly, because I wasn't in there. Here's the fun behind the scenes story on that. I was supposed to be featured more prominently, but I annoyed the lady who was the producer of the document. I didn't know I was annoying her, but apparently she didn't like my Captain Kirk impersonation. I was addressing the 501st Council, and all the people were in one room, and I guess I hammed it up a little bit. I could tell she was annoyed. So I saw the final cut. I was like, there I am. The one shot. Like, you know, come on, tug at the heartstrings, show my artificial leg. Come on. Nope, she wanted me out of that. So I'm in there for 2 seconds when I'm like, I think I'm ready or something like that. You're right. There's a lot of events that are a lot of different episodes of this great journey to think back on. I would say, you know, the Rose Parade was among them because meeting George Lucas, and the first time I actually met George Lucas the night before the dress rehearsal, or no, the night before the parade. No, it was before the dress rehearsal because I got to meet him at the dress rehearsal. I didn't know he was going to be there. Nobody did, and I was supposed to be filling time, you know. So I got this sign: go to the podium and fill time. And then suddenly they're giving you the cutoff sign, and then suddenly here comes George Lucas walking up to me, and I'm opening for George Lucas. That's awesome. I would say that's one of my favorite moments, just because out of the entire thing, yes, it was great marching, and yes, it was great doing all the public stuff. But that council meeting, I got tingles, just goosebumps on my skin when, if you've ever had a commander's meeting, like at DragonCon, we tend to have a commander's meeting, and you'll hear a list of maybe 10 to 12 garrisons. This was like 50 garrisons from all over the world. I mean, in one room, we had everybody. It was like a United Nations of the 501st. It was, that to me was probably the singular most satisfying moment, was hearing roll call. It was like hearing the Justice League roll call. You know, these are like, that's German garrison right there. Oh my God, that's Japanese garrison right there. I would say just I geek out more when I'm around more 501st members, because to me, it's that universality of it. There's always one moment I recall from every trip I take to Germany, to France, to Singapore, to Canada twice. Different places in the world, and it strikes me how weird it is that we're not all that different. I mean, human beings are, you know, I had a guy kidnap me first morning in Singapore, take me to a noodle shop, and all we did was sit down and talk about the upcoming Han Solo movie, and I'm like, this is awesome. It's just like I envisioned that, you know. I wanted something that's sort of like the Masons, or whatever you want to call it, where you travel the world, and if you meet a brother or sister in that organization, you got an instant in. You got something to talk to about. So I'd say the commanders meeting at the Rose Parade is probably my highlight, just because I'm meeting George Lucas, but is meeting my fellow brothers and sisters from around the world. Man, I hope you'll get to go to a celebration. Some of you probably already have, and that's the closest you'll get, but it's pretty amazing. You go to the swap, the patch swap, or the swag trade, and you're meeting people from all over the South America, the Asia, Europe. It's just incredible. That's a good question.
That's a fantastic answer. Just a quick aside here. We are at about $1,200 raised. We've got a goal of $1,500. If you're watching and you can, please donate. It's really important to us, and it's really important to the Make-A-Wish folks. David, why don't we jump to you? Do you have a question for Mr. Albin here?
Absolutely. So, Mr. Johnson, we've talked a good bit this morning about the walking wounded detachment. If someone is in the 501st and they are handicapped, they do have some of those issues going on, how can they go ahead and get more involved with the walking wounded? How would they go ahead and start? Who do they need to reach out to?
That's a good question. I wish I had a zippier, like when people ask about R2KT, I go R2KT at R2KT.com. It's easy. Walking wounded, it's kind of a tongue twister. You can email us at walkingwoundeddetachment@gmail.com, all one word, or you can go to www.detachment.com, and there's a link there about learning more about it. And it's very open. Like you go to the page and there's a Facebook group, people who reach out and just say, I want to be on the roster. The roster is something we keep for all time of people that say they're part of that body, and there's no, entry exam or any kind of screening. I mean, we've got people from the Mandos and people from the Rebel Legion. It's irrespective of person, gender, creed, nationality, all that stuff. Really, it's just about whether or not someone wants to be within that fellowship, and with the idea of being supportive of that fellowship. I tell people when they come in, our strength is your strength, but you'll be called on to give your strength to the group too at times. So anybody who's interested in the Walking Wounded, they can just email me at walkingwoundeddetachment@gmail.com, or go to www.detachment.com and just ask. And we have testimonials that are out there at www.detachment.com, and it's called Profiles in Courage. I kind of stole that title, but I think it's more appropriate for what I'm describing. It's non-political. It's about people, and you got people that give testimonials, and I point people to that just as a quick brochure, if you will, of what is it that people are expected to do, or what kind of people are in it, and that tells you everything you need to know. It's we're lucky that every so often people wear their Walking Wounded Detachment shirts, racing shirts at a convention. We do a big group photo, but once celebration's over and everybody goes to the respective units, it's really up to them to be that ambassador. And I think it's so important that people realize that just like detachments, you might be the only TIE fighter in your group, but you're part of Jolly Roger. With the Walking Wounded Detachment, which is unofficial, right? You don't even have to be a 501st member if you don't want to. If you want to just be a costumer or just someone who wanted to be a part of it. The important thing is that you're tapping into a group of like-minded people that may or may not have answers for you, or at least be able to support.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Absolutely.
That's a great question, David. And I think that it's something that is very useful when we do some of these troops, like what we've been doing up here for the kids who are beating cancer and things like that. If I can, I always like to hand out some of the patches and things like that when we're there. These nifty ones, and then these are always really cool too.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those are nice.
So the kids really seem to respond to it. So it's a nice way to identify with them. Jim, let's jump to you. What question do you have?
Sure. So, Albin, at what point did you see this movement kind of transform from just the fandom to the charitable aspects of it? I mean, it's such a big part of it now, but obviously, it started out with you and some guys, when the special editions came out and costuming and everything. So I was just wondering about that. And then also the number 501st, what's the significance of that? And is it just a kind of coincidence that That's also the section of the tax code for charitable organizations.
Wow. I really wish I'd come up with better myths and cool legends for how all this happened. I always disappoint people with these answers. So first of all, as to your question, when did we make the turn from just being a purely fun costuming group to actually doing charity work? That was an organic thing. I mean, it just sort of came on. I say it like this. It evolved in this way. Early on, when Tom Cruise and I were trooping, even before we were the 501st Squad, we were just Detention Block 2551 on GeoCities. We were desperate to go out in costume anytime we could, and Halloween was about the only time. There were no real good conventions happening other than DragonCon. And so we did a lot of charity work for daycare centers. Hospitals didn't know anything about us. We hadn't thought about it. But what we found out was that in a lot of like Alpine Garrison, Mountain Garrison, some of these people out west I know were doing it early on with, what's it called? Big Brothers of America, and then the Candlelighters Association. Those guys started going in there because these charities were desperate for some, some sort of curb appeal, some flash, and we were all ready to just get suited up for any reason. But I think what happens is that you get bit by the bug and people start really enjoying it. I know I've heard this so many times. You go into a hospital visit and you go, I want to go to a con, but yeah, I'll go to the hospital visit because there's nothing else going on. And you're transformed. I think gradually there was no singular moment when the Legion committed to that. I think it just organically grew to the point where we realized we've worked out the process so well. And every garrison, this is where I think the garrisons are the backbone of the Legion, because they worked it out in their local communities. If I can make a good relationship with the what do they call it, the day life coordinator or whatever at my hospital, then I've got an in, and you've developed a relationship. And that's what it's about. Develop a relationship. I know with our hospital, our children's hospital, that's what I did. And I would love to take credit for the fact that I started this as a charity group, but I didn't. I just wanted to have fun and see people doing positive things. But I'd say around 2002 is when I started seeing, Candlelighters, and I forget the group in Georgia that the Georgia Garrison was using. You just started connecting the dots. Like I see all these people. Empire City Garrison started working with theirs, and I started seeing the Ronald McDonald House come up a lot. And it wasn't until later Make-A-Wish. And really, 2005 was the in my face moment when my daughter became a Make-A-Wish child, and suddenly the Legion was doing a lot for my family, and I realized, oh my goodness, this is huge, man. You never expect to be the one who's the focus of that love. And I remember my wife and I, who I met in the 501st from Empire City Garrison, we were like, this is unreal. So I wish I could take credit for having that idea. I can't, and I don't know when. Like 2002 is about the time I started seeing, and that's even better, right? It's better than me one day just going, all right, we're going to be a charity organization. Everybody follow that. How much cooler is it that everybody around the world just basically decided on their own? That's to me, that's inspiring. As for the 501st, the name, I found that to be pretty funny too, that coincidentally a 501c whatever happens to be a charity group. I wish I could claim credit for that. I think out on the 501st site, you can actually read the blurb Dean Plantamira put out there about where the 501st name comes from. Be prepared to be let down. It's it's nothing really magical. Same like everybody heard the story of where R2D2 the name came from. Anybody want to say what that was?
I think if I remember correctly, I think it originally stood for Real 2 Dial 2.
Something like that, yeah. So they're sitting in the editing bay, and George Lucas is sitting there with his little steno pad, and someone yelled out R2D2, and he thought, there was something alliterative about that that's very lyrical to that sound. And so when I started the group out, I wanted to have a military feel. And my dad being a World War II pilot, I wanted it to sound like, the Screaming Eagles or the Fighting Seabees or whatever. And I thought it had to have like a numerical designation if the Empire's so freaking big. And I thought, I want something with the word fighting in it. And so it was either 400 or 500, and I just landed on 500. And I figured it would add a little realism to it to have a number at the end of it. So why not be the first of the 500? And it just sounded very alliterative, the Fighting 501st, you know. And the first couple of years we did this, Levi Jeans had just put out the Buttonfly 501s. And so you can ask Steve Sansweet, for a long time we were called the Buttonfly Squad. And I was like, thanks, Levi's. And that's it. Since then, I've, obviously learned there's a paratroop infantry regiment, the 501st, I think with 101st. And people ask about that all the time. Fun fact, there is at least one member of the 501st Legion who is actually a retired member of the 501st PIR. And I made the mistake one year of being in London with Dave Anderson from the 501st Legion. And we went up to Matt Bush, the artist. And Matt was talking about military, and Dave started talking military. I'm not military, and so I shouldn't have opened my mouth. But I said, hey, Matt, you know something cool? Dave was in the 501st Legion and the 501st Paratroopers. And he goes, really? I said, Dave, show him the coins. So Dave pulled out his 501st coin and his military coin, put it on the desk, and you just saw everybody but me got it. Like, what did I just do? I just had Dave coin Star Wars famous artist Matt Bush, and he had made the trip over to London without bringing his coins. So guess what? Everybody got free prints, and Dave's like, ow. I was like, hey, you got free art out of it. Matt and I still laugh about that to this day. But yeah, it's basically, I wanted a cool sounding name. Sorry.
Well, I think there's a whole bunch of people who think that they agree with you. It's a cool sounding name.
Yeah.
We're going to jump to Danny here and get his question. But again, I'm going to remind everybody, we've got about 20 minutes of the panel left. If you haven't donated yet, this is a great time to do it. So, click the button and make it happen. Danny.
Hey, thanks, Dan. Well, first off, Albin, thanks for being here. And then second, thanks for, as a 24-year Navy CB, thanks for the Fighting CB shout out there. Wasn't expecting that.
Awesome.
So, hoorah. So my question, kind of textbook, where do you see the Legion and what wickets do you think we should hit along the way in 10 years? Where do you see us in 10 years from now? And what kind of things you think you'd like to see within that 10 years?
Wow. I got to put on my Swami hat here.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Agnosticator.
Hey, we can keep it simple.
Yeah. Well, let me back that up. I'll qualify my answer here with a little bit of funny history. It was around 2007, which by my watch is over 10 years ago. Around 2007 that the 501st was accused of hitting their high water mark. We did the Rose Parade, and had an action figure and all this stuff we were mentioned in a book. And I'll never forget, I won't mention names because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but it's somebody that you probably haven't heard of, but if you did your research, you'd be linked to a thing that the 501st is proud of. But I remember him turning to me and just saying, well, this is it. I hope you enjoyed the ride. I hope, you didn't wrap up your whole ego in having started the 501st because it's not going anywhere and it's only going to circle the drain from here. And I went, well, hold on. First of all, I don't think anybody, like, the 501st could go away tomorrow, God forbid. My life's going to go on. Like, I'm not tied up I'm the founder. I don't care. I'm raising $5 and, like, I'm good. So you could relax. That's not going to be my one thing that I feel gratifies me or defines me. But I will say that I won the bet because I told him, I was like, I don't think so. I think this is a club that's organic enough in its vision. I think it has a good vision. I think it has good people. It has professional people, project managers, professionals, and we'll flow with the times. And I'll remind you, we're as good as the popularity of Star Wars. I mean, come on. Here we are 13 years later. Disney's bought Star Wars. A lot of people cried about that. And I said, well, if nothing else, they're going to keep cranking out movies. And every time there's been a paradigm shift or a change, the Legion's been right there to adapt to it. The most recent one is this. How do you take a group that is used to trooping in person, and what do they do after a year? Well, they do this, man. I mean, I have not seen a break in people's enthusiasm. I've not seen a break in people's passion for what they're doing. We are surviving not being able to troop as much as we want. So I fully believe in 10 years, we're still going to be a very prominently part of the Star Wars legacy. I would say that the probably the milestones that we want to hit along that way is we need to think very carefully about how do we want to, and this is how I thought about the Legion from the beginning. You got to build stress points into the expansion or scalability of any organization. And that's why I created detachments and squads. I mean, you've got to be able to work with the flow of people and how they want to operate together information-wise. So 10 years from now, I can only see the internet being a stronger tool. We're internet-based. I can only see the Star Wars franchise being stronger. It's in good hands. And I think the only burden we have on ourselves, if you've ever heard this before, don't be afraid of success. Be prepared for it. And so the Legion needs to step up, and we've done that in so many ways. We are the ones that bridge the gap to the celebrities by having honorary members. We're the ones that bridge the gap to being seen front and center with charities, all on our own. So I would say that we need a probably stronger fiscal model. I would like to see in the next 10 years that we, there's the Make-A-Wish endowment. I'd like to see that cross the 1 million mark and onward, and we can start generating and sponsoring our own wishes, both inside the U.S. and outside the U.S. I would like to see a permanent facility for the 501st archive so I can get it out of my attic space and maybe even have a museum. So I would like to see the 501st in the next 10 years take a bigger stride towards being more of a formal enterprise level, like a Fortune 500 model company, in the sense that it has streamlined financial reporting records, being able to show a balance sheet every year of what we're able to generate. We're doing it, but it's not to the level that, a lot of these major organizations are. I want to grow closer and closer to what Make-A-Wish and these other organizations are doing, and have an operating budget to where we roll into celebration and we can put all the 501st stuff up we want without having to rely on the local garrison or crowdfund it or crowdsource it, and just get to be more of a professional organization. I think we're well on our way.
Absolutely, I agree.
Well, thank you so much for that answer. You're pretty good at answering these questions right off the cuff. It's like you've talked to people like this before. This isn't the first one of these you've done, I take it.
It's not. It's not. And a lot of these topics, I'm so glad you guys are asking them. They're essential. They're so essential to the story and the vision of where we're going.
Well, thank you. We're gonna jump to Julia, and I think she has a question all loaded up.
All right.
Great to meet you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I know many of us have stories about our costumes malfunctioning. So I was just wondering if you had any interesting stories.
Yes. Yes, I do. Oh my goodness. So I'll lead off with the funny short one that everybody can relate to that did not have to do with my costume, but one of my favorite malfunctioning stories was being lined up with 200 of the stormtroopers at the kickoff point for the Rose Parade, and we're all as giddy and excited, and half the people don't speak English, and and that giant bomber flies overhead, and everybody's all excited. It's freezing cold. Oh, your adrenaline's up, and then you hear the unmistakable clatter of a piece of plastic, probably the canister,
Yeah.
hitting the pavement in this tightly packed, rigid formation of stormtroopers, and you just heard 199 voices go, because we all at once could relate to what that was, what that means, who's going to pick it up. I love that. If nothing showed we were united, it was the Schadenfreude of losing your canister. No, my least favorite and favorite story of my costume malfunctioning is the first time I ever tried to troop as a unit. And so in 1998, I met probably 11 people in Atlanta, Georgia, for DragonCon. And I brought my 24 inch by 24 inch. I got a little 2 foot by 2 foot sign. It had the 501st Squad logo. We weren't a Legion. And Scott MacArthur made it. And it's very bitmap, heavy. So it was pixelated when you made it. It was awful. I still have it. And I show up in the lobby and I'm like, hey, everybody, let's be the Legion or the Squad. And everybody's like, that's cute, Albin. We're going to go party and meet girls and all this other stuff. I'm like, all right. So the night of the Star Wars Masquerade, I thought I did a big thing by talking the organizers into letting us escort Anthony Daniels up on stage. And there's Anthony Daniels in his gold tuxedo, and there's about 11 of us backstage. And you got to know, I've been through 72 hours of watching everybody ignore everything I asked them to do. The other 10 troopers were like, whatever, we're going to go party and get drunk. 2 other clubs had people in every stairwell handing out flyers to join their stormtrooper club, clearly for money. I mean, if there was ever a moment where it looked like this idea was in danger of just winking out, and never happening, that was it. But we made it. We made it to the Masquerade. It's Saturday night. There's like 2,000 people out there in the stadium, and here's Anthony Daniels cutting up backstage with us. I'm like, this is it. I get to march on stage. I get to be a part of this thing. And then the moment they called us up, there was 6 stairs leading up into the stage area, and I was not comfortable with my artificial leg in that really clunky first set of armor. I couldn't go upstairs. Wow. And right there, it was decided, like the guy turned to me with the little boom mic and said, if you can't go up those stairs, you're out. You know what? You're out. And I got kicked out of my own event for not being able to bend my knee enough to get the stairs. And I was like, I remember sitting back there. It was me and a guy dressed as Jodo Cast, because he's like, you're not canon. And me and Jodo Cast are sitting there just commiserating like, well, this sucks. So you go back to all the photos of 1998 DragonCon and the Masquerade. There's Anthony Daniels, hamming it up with all these people that did not want to do anything to do with the 501st Squad. And how I know that is none of them are in the Legion now. And 2, we're enjoying the fruits of my labor. And 3, I got to sit backstairs and do nothing. So that was terrible. Was that a costume malfunction? I don't know. Maybe I was just dumb enough not know that. You remember you got to think back in the day, you get a set of armor. What do we do now? We mod it, man. We get that thing to work and fit in just the way we want it. No. It was like finding a magic sword and going, well, you don't take it to a blacksmith and start, ruining it. It's what it is. And I'd only been an amputee for like 2 years at that point. So I was getting used to hardware on my leg, the suit, and, lesson learned there. But that was pretty bad. Was that a good one? Was that a good enough one?
Yes.
It's got to bring that heartbreak. Yeah.
That was a good one. Well, we just had Jason McNally join in, and Jason is a guy who's been busy all weekend doing some behind the scenes work, moderating for us on Twitch. He and Whitby, who I don't think she's here with us for this, but both of them have been doing some just absolutely fantastic stuff. We could not have done it without them. And he is late because he was stuck in traffic after helping bring a bunch of props to the photo shoot. So we're going to let him go ahead and ask a question now.
So I'll go ahead and follow in Julia's sentiments. It is nice to meet you. We appreciate you, taking the time out of your day to join us for this.
Absolutely.
So I kind of missed the first half here, so sorry if you maybe already talked about this, but just to throw you straight into the fire here with some of the other detachments, outside of stormtroopers and the more iconic characters, what would you say, with like the new canon and stuff like that, the new just everything that's out there, what would you say is probably your favorite costumes that you're seeing to kind of pop out there? And then to kind of tack on to your previous statement, this club allows people to have so much creativity in the costumes that they do make, and even if they're not official, what would be one of the I guess most creative things that you've seen done with a uniform or a costume?
All right. That's a great question. Every time a movie comes out or a new animated series, I have a lot of people asking me about something, and half the time they've seen it before I have, so I look really dumb. I'm like, what? Star Wars has grown so much, man. It's not enough to know the trilogy and all the books, comics, and whatever animated series. You got to know everything. I'd say in the last couple of years, to me, I'm just speaking from the heart, like as a pure 8-year-old, my 8-year-old heart. Whenever I see something Star Wars, it makes me go, wow. Tank Commander. The tank commander from Rogue One. I got to say, something about that design just made me that is so cool. And seeing them like in action, I was looking forward to that scene. And, it was very evocative of, I'm a huge World War II history movie fan. So, I was kind of thinking of, the movie Fury and Band of Brothers and stuff like that. And we were not let down. That was an amazing scene. But of course, it's successful if you're then saying, I want to see more of that, right? I want to see maybe a spinoff of Clone Wars or something that shows the Armored Battalion. And the Armored Battalion up to now had been AT drivers, ATST drivers. Now you got this tank commander. I'm like, this is a game changer. If I was part of Armored Cav and that detachment, this would be like, I'd be so excited to grow with that one. I like that one. And from the Solo movie, the Mud Trooper. Oh man, I love the Mud Trooper. It was not this year, but the year before, obviously, when my wife and I we go to DragonCon every year, and I had a gentleman who, how many times are you just in a bar at a convention? You're away from the floor, the convention floor, or away from any of the events. You bump into someone in costume, and you have an actual opportunity to have them detail top to bottom what they source to get the different parts together. And this guy, man, he really put the effort in on his Mud Trooper, and I was so grateful that he took the time to do that. And wow, I mean, hats off to a lot of the people that have to do that early work to figure out what the practical props and effects were that they brought in to make those costumes. So for me, Mud Trooper and the Tank Commander are two of my absolute favorite ones right now. And I think there was a tack-on question to the end of that.
Yeah, it's just you're kind of mentioning the creativity in some of the costumes that you've seen before, and I was just saying, not necessarily like an official, like approved costume,
Sure.
but just something that you've seen either from our club or a sister club. Was like probably the coolest or most creative thing you've seen.
Am I wrong that recently one of the garrisons actually had the Tank Commander on like a former like half track or something that they had dressed up. See, I did World War II reenacting, and I know you could find a half track or some of these decommissioned military vehicles, but I could have sworn, I can't remember, it was either in German garrison or somewhere overseas outside of America, where somebody had obviously the Tank Commander outfit, and they had dressed up with I don't know, styrene or something, or 3D printed some of the little bits that they needed to, but for most of it was plywood, painted, molded with a lot of resin stuff on the outside. But I kept checking that out, going, that's a real world, like actual existing, military imperial tank, if you will. And most fans wouldn't even know it. They'd be like, cool, a tank. But the fact that they went to that much trouble you could just tell that they 3D printed some of the smaller little tchotchkes that they had to put on there, and the tubing, and obviously we've all sort of worked around these problems. And I'm always impressed. I got to say, I'm always impressed with, last time I saw it in person was up in Toronto for the Canadian garrison. And I'm sure more people do it now, is whenever people do the Death Star, like we've seen the Death Star illuminated walls, but then they do the command center with the real retro 70s era Radio Shack buttons, knobs, toggle switches. And the fact they put so much design sensibility into recreating that, not perfectly, they sort of just borrow from that style, to me is just amazing, because you're recreating a whole era from Space 1999, Battlestar Galactica, Buck Rogers, what these people were doing with the 70s sensibility and a very limited budget. And to me, that was amazing. I will say, here's another fun story, is Stefan Cambalista. Anybody know him from the Belgian garrison? He's the one that does the giant, third scale AT-AT and all the props that they bring over. I was really proud at the last celebration in Orlando that he walked me through his Millennium Falcon interior. Anybody seen that? The Belgian garrison's Millennium Falcon? Yeah, I see some nodding heads. I get to talking to Stefan, and he's like, then I put these buttons here, and then I did this, and some of it's IKEA furniture I found on the street. And then about 2 hours later, guess who I bumped into? I bumped into the guy who's one of the set designers for New Hope, who built the interior of the Millennium Falcon. So are you thinking what I'm thinking? I got to get this guy across the hall and have him meet Stefan. And it was really cool. He'd never met this guy. And I felt like I brought the two. I was a matchmaker. I brought the two together, and he was walking the whole interior of the Millennium Falcon and pointing out what he did right. And that was, to me, again, that goes back to the opportunities we create for our members. Like, way to go, Stefan. That was awesome.
I looked it up. I'd seen what you were talking about, that tank.
Yeah.
I looked it up real quick. There was one built I saw on in Kentucky, and one in the Philippines garrison.
Philippines, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And they got
Kentucky. All right.
Yeah. We got a stateside one too.
Nice. That's awesome.
Well, we've got one more person here, Tim May, who's been patiently sitting at the computer all day while we were out taking photos and enjoying the sunshine. He was sitting here making sure that the people watching had something to watch and drawing a charity raffle. So we're going to let him ask a question now. Tim?
Thanks, Dan. Albin, great to meet you. I know you can't see me on screen because my camera is shared to Twitch right now, but I'm a huge collector. I'm a huge fan of the Star Wars artwork, and I know you just did a series over the summer about Star Wars artists, and you really promoted them. And I wondered if you could talk about that, because you did bring up Matt Bush. He is one of my favorites. I have two of his drawings. But if you could go over some of that and just tell us, how you're supporting them, mostly because of the lack of conventions and some of their, businesses and what they do. So, yeah.
Star Wars Artist Month, yeah.
Yeah, Star Wars Artist Month. That's exactly it.
So Star Wars Artist Month, I've really got to stop coming up with cool ideas, right? I started this because, let me see if I can get look at that coin. Are you serious? That is, so Dave Liu out of Malaysia is my go-to artist guy. And Dave is such a bohemian in his sensibilities, his art sensibilities. And I knew if I asked Dave to come up with something sort of trippy for an artist-themed bohemian thing, he could come up with something. And he came up with Graffiti Gonk. And I thought that was awesome. So where this started was about 3 years ago. Suneo Sanda out of Japan, which, he's huge. You can't get much bigger than Suneo Sanda. I remember talking to him on Facebook because he had just posted another warning about counterfeiters of his art. And he's so gracious. He's so nice. He's like, please don't buy from here. you and I would probably go, those jerks. But he was just very nice and said, look, we just got to stop this, buy from the artist. And it really struck me. I'm like, if you ever go to Artist Alley at comic book conventions, they're for superhero comics and that sort of thing. At an early age, I got to know Sergio Aragonés and some of these artists from comic books, and I loved them. And the Star Wars artists, it was just an easy transition for me, because now these are artists that are really struggling, some of them to support themselves. And my goodness, the gift they give us as fans, and we don't even think about it. They're just these iconic images, and they create so much context. And I reached out to Suneo-san, and I said, is there anything we can do as a fan community to help with that? Like some sort of awareness campaign to say, let's buy from the source. And being Suneo-san, he's very nice. Like, oh, thank you. Oh, anything you can do. And it stuck in my brain for about 2 years. Until last year, I was at EmpireCon, which the Peter Mayhew family held in LA. And they flew me out to be there, and they had Matt was there, and Kat Staggs and Tom Hodges, and a whole number of artists were nice enough to go. This is a tiny little con, but we're going to support the Mayhews. That's awesome. And if you've ever been to a small con, what's the one good thing about a small con? Plenty of time and access to some people you normally would never have much time with at a big convention. I spent all day with the artists going, I'm thinking of hosting a month-long event. Would you be on board? And man, every one of them, it was not tears in their eyes, but you could tell they were really like, what, for us? What, really? Yeah, raise awareness and try and talk about this elephant in the room about counterfeiting, and let's buy from the source. Every one of them were just like, yes, this is awesome. And it was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to be like in March. That we were supposed to do it. And then, of course, COVID blew up in our faces. And by April, I said, you know what? I'm not going to let this get in my way. We're still going to do this. And I reached out, and my wife will tell you, I was on the computer all night for 3 nights straight, emailing, texting, calling people saying, I need you in. I need, this is our first year doing Star Wars Artist Month. We got to come out of the gate swinging. And wow, we got everybody. I mean, we got just about everybody and more. Katie Cook and Tom Hodges and Matt Bush and Randy Martinez and Darren Brage and Suneo Sanda, anybody and everybody you could think of, Lee Coase and folks that worked on, licensed stuff.
Becky, I like Becky Doodles myself. My wife's a big fan of hers.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've got hang on. I got the whole list here. Look, I can look like I know what I'm doing now. Suneo Sanda, Darren Brage, Randy Martinez, Corrine Roberts, Eric Siebenek, Becca Seasholes, Gina Kennedy, Matt Bush, Jared Ronda, Emma McGowan. The list goes on. But some of these people have done stuff for like the UK postage service, Star Wars stamps. I mean, just crazy. So I'm very, very, I'm flattered beyond belief that they trusted me with doing my sad little delivery system of this message. And then you had Jedi News and Rebel Scum and Force.net and Bantha Tracks. Everybody jumped on board and went, hey, mate, you're not doing this very well. Let us help you out, okay? And I said, sure. And that got us to like 750,000 viewers because of their newsletters. So now I look like I know what I'm doing because they they took that message and got it out there. And the response from the artists has just been very gratifying. You could tell they don't get remembered a lot. We think of them as big names, but they sit in their studios working for countless hours, and a lot of times they don't get a lot for the contracts that they enter into. So thank you for mentioning that, and we're hoping to do another one next April that will be even bigger.
Fantastic.
And, and I'm hoping to get I don't see why not. We're going to get a charity tie-in with that. We already sold the SWAM merchandise, and the proceeds went to Make-A-Wish. And so far, like Katie Cook is one of those that I'm very careful around artists because they get taken advantage of so often. And I remember she made a quick sketch of R2KT with Princess Leia. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It was our second ever fan club patch. I don't know Katie Cook, so I reached out to her a long time ago and said, could we do that? And then I get to Celebration Orlando, and some lady had taken that art and just made these celebration buttons. She was giving them out free, but I heard from Katie going, hey, what's going on? And it reminds me, I just have to be, we're all very careful stewards of Star Wars. We also have to be very respectful of, these are people trying to make a living. And so far we've done I think a great job of showing that we're responsible partners. And that's what I want. And so hopefully someone will come along like they did with the Legion, take this away from me and make it better, and then give me all the credit.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
mentioning it. Yeah.
Well, we'd like to thank you so much for your time today here, Albin. It's been a real pleasure to have you with us for so long. Before we go, is there anything that you'd like to say to our garrison, to our squad? And we have 4 squads here and 1 whole garrison. Is there anything you'd like to say to us?
Oh yeah, you guys have always been a class act. You're just north of us, and I always feel like you're only a short drive away. I don't know why I haven't done more with y'all. With the Richmond parade, I remember R2KT's made it up there a couple times, and everybody that I've dealt with the Tyrannus and your squad, just amazing. You guys are a class act. Like in 20 something years of working with the Legion, there are flare-ups, right? There's drama, and it's just inevitable. But I've never really heard anything but good things about Tyrannus, and you're like a workhorse. You're just solidly, quietly putting in the work and holding your heads high. And you got the Floridas, the New Yorks, and the Southern Californians. I like to make fun of them because they get all the attention. They could sneeze and it's all over. It gets coverage. Whereas our garrison, especially here in the East and the South, we got to work really hard. In the Midwest, the flyover states. But you guys, without all that fanfare being around in Orlando or whatever, you guys put in work like you are in Orlando, and it's just really impressive. So well done. I'm very proud of everything you've done, and best of luck. And if there's anything I can do, I'm always here. I'm always available and happy to help support.
Well, thank you so much. We're now ready to close out InfernoCon. It's been a fantastic weekend for us. I'd like to take just a minute and thank every person that is here who has worked so hard to make this happen. Ideas are great, like you said, but the guys that are here are the ones that took an idea and made it something that actually happened. If you've been with us all weekend, then you've seen all of these people over and over and over again, because they were the ones who were running the panels, and when they weren't running it, they were on the panels. And then today, every single person that was here from our group was out, in the middle of a park, making sure that everybody got photographs and stayed safe while they did it. Thank you guys so much. We've enjoyed having you. Thank you so much for supporting Make-A-Wish, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.